Italian Wine Podcast. Chin Chin with Italian wine people.
Hello, this is the Italian Wine Podcast with me, Monty Waldin. My guest today is Yannick Benjamin. Welcome.
Good morning.
Where have you come in from?
New York City.
You're a New York native?
I am born and raised.
Yeah?
Yes, I am.
How did you get into wine?
My family, my dad's from Brittany, my mom's from Bordeaux, and they both made a life in the restaurant business in New York.
So you're French, basically?
Yeah, exactly.
You were born in the States, right?
I'm born and raised in the States, that's correct.
How did they meet?
They met in New York City. My dad came to the States in 63, my mom in 71, and they met right there.
No, it was love at first sight.
I guess, but I'm not quite sure.
Are they still around, your folks?
Oh yeah, they're both around. My dad's 79 and my mom is 69.
Cool, okay. And you speak French?
I speak French, yeah.
So did you grow up, was it a French-speaking household? Or?
100% with my mother. With my dad, up until the age of 10, it was always in English because my dad always worked in restaurants and he always worked with French people. So it was his way to practice English with me.
So did they come over for love or for work or?
Well, they met here in New York. They both came separately, but my dad came right after the French-Algerian War in 1963, and he followed his two brothers for work. That's what it was.
Was he in the war? Or?
He was in the war, yeah. Oh yeah.
Were you kind of like really aware of that as a kid? Was there any trauma or?
Well, no, I didn't know the severity of what the war was all about until I got older, and it wasn't something that we exactly discussed. I mean, he would mention it a couple of times for sure, but it was not ever discussed, and nor did I ever see any side effects of like being a veteran of war.
Okay, so in terms of your upbringing, comfortable or hard scrabble?
In the home, comfortable. Outside, a bit different. I mean, I grew up in New York City. I grew up 5 minutes from Times Square, walking distance. I grew up in a neighborhood called Hell's Kitchen. It was a very multicultural neighborhood, but it was during the height of the AIDS epidemic. It was during the height of the crack era. Prostitution was rampant. But I guess it's growing up in that neighborhood, everything just seemed kind of second nature. It never just seemed like it was part of the landscape. I never thought much about it. But it was a very different way of growing up for sure.
So it was a rough area, but with its own sense of community in a kind of slightly...
for the most part. I mean,
anarchic way, yeah?
Yeah, my parents were very good at sort of, I wouldn't say shielding me because it was almost impossible, but to give me another lifestyle when I entered the apartment.
Okay, so it seems like you got a hard-working family with decent values.
100%.
Right, so what was your next move after high school and stuff? Were you a good student?
That was okay. It wasn't great. I mean, I started working at a very young age, and pretty much by the age of 14, I had already committed to the concept that I wanted to be in the hospitality industry. And so just worked really hard, worked part-time jobs. And, I already had it in my mind that I wanted to go to some kind of trade school for hospitality. I didn't want to waste my time going to college, taking liberal arts courses. Just didn't want to do it. But my dad did ask me, he said, all right, well, okay, fine. Even though I don't want you going into the hospitality industry, it seems very clear that that's what you want to do. But can you just go to college, see if you like it? And then I did go to college, 3-4 months, and I got kicked out, and that was pretty much it.
You got kicked out?
Yeah, expelled. My grades were, I could not even tell you what I did.
Really? What just didn't engage you at all?
No engagement. No engagement whatsoever.
But did you make any friends there? It was not like you isolated kid.
Well, my college was it was Baruch College. It was right in the center of Manhattan. So no, I didn't. I don't think I made. Not that I was a loner. It just was. I was working already full time, so I was just going there. But no. And then finally, it was time to go.
Then your parents just must at that point. Okay, listen, he knows where he wants to go, and we're not going to try and shoehorn him into an academic.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. It was a done deal.
So, what was your first sort of official job? I mean, and how old were you at that stage?
So, finally, my dad said, well, if you're going to work in restaurants, you've got to work at a great place. And then right at that point, in 1997, this gentleman named Sirio Macchioni, an Italian gentleman, opening up the second rendition of Le Cirque 2000. And Le Cirque, he hired me.
What's that then?
It means a circus, but it's an institution in New York City. It's now closed, but it was around for almost 40 years. He was open at one place, at one location for about 20 years, I would say. And then he moved. And then the second reopening of it was a big deal. And I was hired there, and it was quite an amazing experience and job.
What made it special? The tension, the stress?
Definitely the tension, definitely the amount of media attention that it was getting, the power players of New York with the celebrities that were coming in. And for me to be just barely a day over 18 years old in an atmosphere like that. Even though I'd worked in restaurants, it was something completely different. It was, Christoph silver and Bernardo plates, and it was just the best of the best. And it was just looking back, it was very hard for me to comprehend what was going on at that time.
I mean, were you sort of starstruck, or were you quite easy with that? Okay, someone famous walks through the door, they sat down, they just like any other human being, they order their food, they eat it, and they go home.
Yeah, I wouldn't get starstruck, but I was impressed and blown away by the actual quality of the people that were coming in.
Okay, so it wasn't like a rough flow. It was obviously high class, but well run, with not overly pretentious or snobby or. A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, okay, all right. That was like fishing. It's like threw a hook out there. You just gave it a little nibble. Okay, next step. But this is sort of foundation stone. This is definitively the moment when your life changed.
My life changed, and then after that, I stayed there for 2 years, and the money was incredible. I was living a very good life at a very young age. And then at that point I said, well, I don't want to fall into complacency. So I started working at different restaurants. I worked at a restaurant called Oceana. After Oceana, I went to go work for a famous chef called Jean-Georges von Richten. And after him, a restaurant called Atlas. And then I spent a good amount of time at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, along with working part-time at an Italian restaurant called Felidia.
So you were quite, this is a technical term, but promiscuous. You were really getting as much exposure to different ways of working, different food styles, different atmospheres.
Super motivated.
So what was your strategy though? Was it you wanted to open your own place and suck up as much juice from all these other places and say, right, I'm going to do my own thing? Or
the objective was to learn as much as I could with the hopes of eventually opening my own place, or just move up the chain ladder, and that was it.
You were moving up the chain, though.
I was certainly moving up, and I was trying to absorb as much as I could. It was like this is my moment to learn as much as I can.
What was important to you, the business side of it, or the front of house, the actual food, the plates, the cutlery, the napkins?
That's a good question. At that moment, it was all about front of the house type of stuff, Probably looking back, I wish that I would have found that mentor who would have showed me like operations, because it's something that a lot of people when they enter the business don't pay attention to.
So operations means?
Operations, numbers, P&L statements, all that, crazy stuff.
Profit and loss. Okay.
Profit and loss, sorry about that. Like the real important stuff that if you want to ever open up your own restaurant.
For me, it's going to be unlikely. Okay, next step. How old were you by this time?
So by the time I did all of this, I was 25 years old.
Free time, what were you? A bit of a wild kid going out nightclubbing?
No, for the most part, because by the time, at the age of 23, I had met my fiance at that time. So that was my first real girlfriend, so I started to calm down. I mean, I was still going out. I was still having a good time for sure. But
you're quite an energetic lad.
Very energetic, yes.
I'm like, up here, you're very...
yes, for sure,
your brain is never sleeping.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah. But I do have the ability, when I hit the bed, I can pass out. So that's a good thing.
Okay, we'll keep going.
So, but at the age of 25, and then I actually got married. So things were, I wouldn't say things were settling down, but yes, for sure, I wasn't as old, but 25 is still young.
Yeah, but steady income, somewhere to live.
Yeah, life
partner.
Exactly, correct. Yeah,
and you're moving up in the chain of command.
Correct.
Next step.
Well, unfortunately, I get married in July of 2003, and I had a car accident in October of 2003. So 3 months after, which was quite overwhelming, to be quite honest with you. And at that time, I was working at a great restaurant called Atelier at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel.
Atelier.
Yeah, it was quite successful. So a car accident left me permanently paralyzed. And so that was a real, game changer, and obviously.
Okay, so when you say paralyzed, what do you mean?
Yeah, car accident, it left me permanently paralyzed from pretty much the belly button down, without the use of my legs, so no motor and no sensory. So basically, I don't feel anything below that area. Yeah, I sustained a spinal cord injury at the thoracic 6 level area.
I mean, obviously that was a life or death as well, wasn't it, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, what was wild about that car accident, to be quite honest with you, was if you would have come to visit me at the hospital that day of, you would have seen me and you'd be like, okay, you look pretty good actually. There were no scrapes or marks on my face, except for the fact that, it was just, I had a burst fracture and it left me paralyzed. That was it. So, yeah. I mean, the car was in pretty bad shape, but everything else in my body, I was fine. I mean, I broke 2 ribs, but I didn't break any other bones besides my actual vertebrae. Out of all the bones I could have broken, I broke the worst one.
So how did you rebuild your life?
Well, it wasn't overnight. I can tell you that right now. It was quite complicated. It was long. Even having to talk about this right now, I wouldn't say it's painful, but it's something that it just puts me back in that same kind of place. So what ended up happening? I'm in the hospital. I'm there till January 2004. 2004, I'm trying to figure things out. What my identity, who am I? Clearly, trying to go back to work in restaurants was going to be very complicated. How am I going to do that in a wheelchair? Because I'm a full-time wheelchair user, and all I really know at this point is restaurants. That lack of not having an identity or a sense of purpose to go somewhere was very, very hard to accept. And I wouldn't say that I was in a dark hole, but I certainly was not seeing the light, that's for sure. So that first year and a half I would say 2 years, was very, very, very hard. And I was relearning my body, like my legs, how to, I'm basically carrying dead weight, So all of that, relearning the skill set of transferring on and off the shower bench, how to shower, how to put on a pair of pants, tie my shoes. All of this stuff, it was quite arduous.
But you presumably had some kind of help from the medical people, or not really?
Pretty much, you're in rehabilitation for about 3-4 months.
Which isn't very long.
Which is not long at all, because that's what insurance covers. After that, you do what they call like an outpatient rehabilitation. So you're going to physical therapy like twice a week, and that only lasts for another 3 months, and then you're on your own after that, pretty much.
So it's a double whammy. Sort of a triple whammy. Mentally,
yeah, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but absolutely.
Mentally, physically, but also to your self-esteem as a.
Oh yeah, it was awful. Yeah. It was awful. That's again, I think that we all need that sense of purpose in life, and I simply did not have that. And I did actually, interestingly enough, I was taking wine classes already. By February 2004, went back to work part-time at the Ritz-Carlton, more just doing like office work, getting myself back acclimated to that whole lifestyle of work, and learning how to like get around in a wheelchair with transportation and all that. But yeah, it was tough times.
Yeah, mentally draining.
Completely draining. And so after that, what ended up happening, I was working a lot. I was really pushing my body. I was completely in denial that, spinal cord injury, you look at me now, I'm healthy. I do I do a lot of great things, but there's a certain maintenance to it. If you don't take care of it, a lot of things can get kind of out of control very fast.
Such as?
Listen, I as I said, I don't feel from the belly button down, so I don't have any sensation, nor do I have any control of my bladder. Which, at the age of 25, usually, you're usually around 65, 70 years old when your bladder is out of control. And so I didn't have any control of my bladder. So you're prone to urinary tract infections. And I didn't understand my bladder. There's a certain science to it, so I'm outside and I'd have a cup of coffee, then, shit, my pants are soaking wet, and I'm like all the way in Midtown, in the heart of Manhattan with soaking wet pants, it's very humbling to be in a situation like that. I cannot tell you.
Yeah, it's kind of like adding humiliation to...
Oh, there's humiliation, you're being humbled, but yeah, my bladder like drove me nuts. I wanted to go Game on Thrones on it sometimes and just take like one big sword and just like stab it. It is one of the most discouraging things to have a bladder that just acts on its own. Of course, that took time to finally understand the science of it. And once I did it, of course, it was fine. But wow, that took a while to kind of get. It's one of the biggest issues. So a lot of people think spinal cord, can't walk, terrible. I said, oh my God, just give me full control of my bladder and I would be happy.
So how does that, I don't want to go too much into personal stuff, but how does that, people say, what happens if you need to have a pee?
Yeah, for sure. So I have to catheterize myself.
Okay.
So I'm catheterizing at least, upwards of like 5 to 6 times a day, which is always interesting, when you're in a place like Italy, right? Because 80% of the time, none of the bathrooms are accessible. So you've got to make up some bullshit excuse. Oh, I'm sorry. And tell people, I'm going to be right back. I got to make a phone call. But what you're actually doing is I've got to go find the corner somewhere in the street to pee because there's no.
Seriously, can't you not pee into a bottle or something? Or?
No, I've got it's a closed bag system. Again, I've got to be very careful. I've got to make sure bacteria is not entering my urethra. Because if that now, again, urinary tract infections, and I don't know if you've ever had one, but they are awful. They are awful. They just
Agonizing.
they knock you out. I'm sorry about that. I keep knocking that.
That's all right.
They will knock you out. I mean, I don't know, upwards of 102 Fahrenheit, so I don't know what that would be in Celsius.
It's 30. It's quite warm. 28
Oh yeah,
or something. Yeah.
The chills and the whole. I mean, it's.
So your body temperature as well, and that can be dangerous, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's terrible. I mean, it's one of the worst. I mean, if you want to understand death, just take a. I mean, really. I mean that sincerely. It's just. It's not fun.
Okay, so back to your work. You obviously had this massive, adjustment.
Right.
How did you rebuild, and what do you do now?
So pretty much. Then after that, the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, I just closed, or the restaurant inside was not doing well. At that point, I was very sick, and what happened? This was a byproduct of me pushing my body. I developed what you call a pressure sore, which is very common in a spinal cord injury. What that means is because I'm sitting on my butt all day, if I don't have the right kind of cushion, if I'm not careful, basically you develop like it's a scab, but it's what they call stage 4. It's basic. I had the size of a golf ball on my ass, so it was pretty bad. And I was living with that for a couple of months, and then finally my body just gave out. I needed to find a doctor who would do surgery to close it back up. I needed an actual plastic surgeon. But most doctors did not want to touch me because the fact that I didn't feel and all this. Finally, I found this incredible doctor, Dr. Thomas Steary, who did the surgery. And then I was in the hospital for another 2 months, laying on my one side. Yeah, it was awful. And then finally, I had received a phone call while I was in the hospital from a gentleman named Jean-Luc Ledoux, who had asked me if I was interested in coming to work at retail, and of course I had to give him some nonsense answer because I am laying on my side, and I said, "Hey Jean-Luc, great to hear from you. Unfortunately, I can't come and interview with you right now because I don't know what I told him.
You didn't tell him the truth.
I definitely did not tell him the truth. I didn't. It was
why not though?
Well, I didn't want to get into it. I was ashamed. I didn't want to come across as vulnerable. I just didn't want to I actually, as a matter of fact, a lot of my friends and only a few of my family members knew that I was in the actual hospital because I put this big brave face for like 2 years, and finally, and at that point I can honestly say I definitely was in a dark place. Okay. There's no doubt about that. I was in a dark place.
But had you thought about the S word or not?
Suicide? No, definitely not. And I'll tell you very simply why. Because what always motivated me to try to do better was the fact that my parents had worked so hard for me. My dad stopped going to school at 14. My mom stopped going to school at 15. And they provided me with such a great life that I knew that was the least I could do was just try to get out of this situation. And so it never crossed my mind. There were moments like, what the fuck, I mean, of course there were, absolutely, there was no doubt about that. I mean, there were moments where I wanted to give up, but what I will say to you is, do I understand why people get to that point? And I know people are very judgmental when people on others that committed suicide, and I think it's terrible, but I understand it. And I've had some very close friends, unfortunately, that went down that route, and you understand. I get it. I do. I really do, because it's exhausting. It's exhausting to have that burden on your shoulders,
mentally and physically.
Oh, it's awful. For sure, I get it.
Yeah, so you can never switch it off, right?
When you've got that black cloud of depression, and anxiety, it's awful. I mean, you just gotta say what the, and I totally get it. I have no judgments about that.
Okay, so but you did get back on track, and how did you do that?
Well, basically, what I needed to do was I was pushing my body way too fast. I was completely in denial of my body. I was trying to keep up with my old self.
Yeah, you're 110% of that.
I was, and what I needed to do was take a few steps back. So finally, I went and knocked on Jean-Luc Ledoux's door after a few months, and he's like, "Oh my God, where have you been? I haven't heard from you." And I said, "Well, unfortunately, I hired people, and I can't hire you now." And I said, "Listen, perfect. Do you mind if I work for you for free?" And he said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I need to regroup. I need to, so what I did was I went by that European model of doing a stagiaire, being an intern, and that's what I did. So I didn't have that pressure. And so if I woke up one morning, I felt tired, I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to go into work. So that's what I did. I needed to rebuild, and I needed to rebuild physically. I needed to rebuild, obviously, mentally. So it was really the best rehabilitation. I needed to go backwards before I can go forwards.
That's a smart move.
Yeah, and it was a great move.
Yeah, that was another life-changing move for you.
100% life-changing move. Yeah. It was the best thing I could have done.
Yeah, the brain taking a little bit more power.
That's what I needed. Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
So that was enjoyable.
Yeah, and then finally, and I actually stayed there for about another for 8 years collectively. While I was there, then I started to compete sommelier competitions almost all the time. I started taking some certifications. I actually went back to college, finished college, and got divorced, but it was very amicable. It was quite simple. I have to say we've remained friends. So
that's great.
And then
I think that's important to have that pillar in your life, even though it's not one that's right next to you all the time.
Absolutely. No, and listen, I'm forever grateful. I mean, she was clutch. She was there. Her family was incredibly generous and great to me. So they were all Italian too, actually, funny enough, but so nice. And so I'm very thankful. And when you go through a situation like that, you need this incredible network of friends and family. It's an emotional and physical support. So
you had that strong family network, and then it was recreating that professional network.
That's something that I needed and wanted. And so after a few years of competing a lot, and now really understanding my body and understanding how to that I could work and do certain things in a wheelchair, and also understanding, listen, I hate this term that when people say nothing is impossible, and I think it's such a shitty thing to say. I don't believe, and I one of my favorite movies is Shawshank Redemption, and in that movie they stress a lot about false hope, and so I'm a big believer in that as well. Don't give people false hope, and so I realized that I needed to work with what I have and then try to build upon that. And while I was, I never embraced retail. So I was working in retail, and it was just not my thing. But I was grateful to be working, and I had an identity, and I was traveling, and things were going well. But I wanted to go back into restaurants, but I just didn't know how to go about that. That was the issue. Pretty much. So at this point, I went back and I was keeping my ears to the grindstone if there was something open of it. But I knew that I needed to work in a place where the tables were sort of set apart, where I can navigate physically. And interestingly enough, talk about putting yourself out there. This gentleman happened to be one of the judges at one of my competitions. And he's the general manager of a private club called the University Club. And he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, Yannick, listen, I remember you competing. Would you like to come in and interview as for the chef sommelier position at the University Club?" And I said, and I thought he was bullshitting for sure. I mean, I'm like, do you remember me? And he said, yeah. I'm like, the guy, and I literally said, I'm the guy in the wheelchair, because I've been traumatized at this point, because I must have interviewed 100 times for sommelier positions, and either I've been literally laughed at, or just nonsense.
How did that make you feel though when people did that?
Oh my gosh, the one time when I got laughed.
You must call people out. You're not the kind of.
There were people that I would call out for sure, and I would call them out when I would find out who they hired instead of me. And I'm like, can you tell me more about that? Why you hired that individual over me? And they're like, well, we can't. I'm like, yeah, but can you tell me what qualifications I lacked? And
give me some feedback.
And they wouldn't do that. It was just such an uncomfortable situation for them.
Well, it's good that you put them in that position.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, at least just fucking tell me.
Either call it straight or get the F out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Don't waste my time. But no.
Did that make you even more determined, or even?
Oh yeah, no, it definitely put it really, it
got the adrenaline going again.
Yeah, and I would say, listen, not angry, but a chip on my shoulder. It forced me to really even study more, to really make myself more balanced, so that I knew that when I got interviewed, that I knew as much as I could. So my goal was to get a director of operations position and all that kind of stuff. But when this job came knocking on my door, I went to go see him, and my interview was 5 minutes. That's it. And then he just asked me very simply, like a gentleman, he said, "What can we do for you? Well, how can we make you feel comfortable here?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "I didn't have the answer." I said, "Well, if you don't mind, we'll just kind of
see how we go."
So see how we go, and that exactly. And he said, "Great," and that's it. And I've been there for almost 6 years.
How proud did you feel on your first day? What were your emotions on your first day? Your first shift.
Just before I got there, I was
shitting yourself.
I was shitting myself. Oh my god! And my butterflies. And I stopped by this little bistro. I had 2 beers. I needed to calm my nerves, and when you're so nervous, I could have had 5 beers and it would have done nothing, but it did help a little bit. But I was just so nervous. I'm thinking, what are these people are gonna, the members that are gonna come to dine there, what are they gonna think of me? A guy in a wheelchair serving wine and cocktails or whatever it is. And then I was also working with these hardcore waiters. It was all unionized, but it turned out quite well. People were very warm and very accepting, and it's been really a wonderful experience. As a matter of fact, I got married there. I got remarried. So it's a very special place. It's a very special building. And it was just like Jean-Luc Ledoux was sort of the first chapter for a new life, and then this was like the second chapter of another life.
So basically you're talking about one chapter is the work, the day-to-day, the getting back into the routine, and the other is the emotional...
You said it perfectly.
Life, yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly...
And how did that... were your folks still around at this time?
Oh, yeah. Still, and they're still around right now.
But did they advise you? Did they encourage you? Did they just say, you know what, he's our kid, whatever he wants to do, we know that he's a good decision maker, we're going to let him get on with it?
I would say after I'd gotten injured, they probably would have preferred that I got into the world of IT or to law or something where it was wheelchair friendly.
Yeah, a sensible job with a guaranteed income.
Yeah, for sure.
And normal hours.
Exactly. Absolutely. And this business, the hospitality industry, is very complicated. It's very difficult.
It's tough for everybody.
It's tough for and let alone if you're disabled and you have a I wouldn't say codependency, but you're heavily dependent on insurance. It's tough. There's no doubt about that. It's definitely very risky.
Just in every restaurant, you're going to have good customers and customers that spend money but are a little bit rude or a bit arrogant or
right.
If somebody says something a little bit rude to you, that you know that they're saying it just irrespective of your physical condition or anything.
Right.
Do you call them out, or do you just say, it's just a bit of an arsehole-y guy on table 3, his wine was 1 degree too warm or something, or just let that one go?
Yeah, so what's very interesting is that I know there are times where customers really want to, I have to say one thing, I'm not saying, there are a lot of things that I'm bad at, but as far as like tableside manners and going out of my way to make sure that person gets whatever they want, I would say I'm 99%. There's probably that one time, but for the most part, sometimes, 3 weeks ago we had this disaster of a service, and it was a disaster. It was probably I'm not making this up. It was the worst I had ever experienced in all my years, and I don't know what happened to the staff.
It just all went wrong.
Everything you could imagine went wrong. Customers are standing up, just going ballistic. But each time they went to vent to me or complain, they were biting their tongue. And it's interesting, and I know it has something to do with me being in a wheelchair. So they never exactly, they're always extremely polite. I'm sure they want to be like, motherfucker, like, where's my food? Where's the... They're like, listen, Yannick, So they're very correct, politically correct when they talk, which it's okay.
I think it's just obvious. You know what, mate, your steak was like 1 degree cooler than it should have been, but and they're saying that to you, and you're thinking, you know what, mate, there could be slightly other problems that could go wrong in your life. Live for the moment.
It's like, even like on this trip, with some other individuals, and some people are complaining about they're not complaining about their hotel room, and I'm telling them, I love my hotel room. My hotel room's wheelchair accessible. I come to Italy a lot, and every time they tell me it's accessible, it's not even accessible. So I'm even happy that that's accessible, and all I need is a place. If I can sleep on the floor and I've got a bathroom that's accessible, that's all I need. I'm like, okay, that those are real first world problems. They really are.
In terms of when you go home from work, like you're here tasting wine in Verona and speaking as well.
Yeah.
Do you need someone to get you into bed and out of bed? Or you're totally independent?
I'm totally independent. I'm on this trip by myself. For sure. I don't have anyone traveling with me or anything like that. Yeah.
So yesterday you gave a speech.
Yes.
To the Wine to Wine audience, which is a B2B business to business event. Yep. Mm-hmm. What were your main messages?
One message was to be thankful for what you have. Focus on the things that you do have. Don't focus on the things that you do not have. The goal is always to try to do better. Never get complacent. Never lose your curiosity. And the fact that, and it's not just in Europe or it's not just in the United States, but I think those of us that grow up in a first world culture, we have a tendency to complain quite a bit. It's quite amazing. But I also think what I wanted to focus on too is, if you're in the wine, if you're working at a winery, if you're working in distribution or as an importer, or you're working in restaurants or in a hotel, you have to really embrace the culture of hospitality. And hospitality does not stop when you punch out. It's a 24-hour, 7-day, thing. And I think a lot of people don't practice that. That concept of walking on the street, hello, how are you? Or, hey, can I help you with something? Or can I hold that door for you? I mean, if we practice that more, if we incorporated that lifestyle, the world would be significantly a better place,
Should we leave it there?
Not a problem. Thank you.
We can carry on.
I don't.
You got anything? Did we miss anything?
No, you're pretty good. You're I don't know. You hardly said anything, but you got me to say a lot. Jeez. You're very good.
But you are an inspirational person. But I unfortunately had a huge glass window which I was in the booth upstairs yesterday, and I could see you speaking.
Yeah.
You had that audience absolutely wrapped around your finger, because you're saying stuff that we kind of know and we just conveniently forget.
Right.
And that we don't want to face up. And we have a cuddly industry, right? The wine industry is cuddly. You may not always earn a lot of money, or some people do, but it's friendly and it's social.
Yeah. And
we're kind of a little bit divorced sometimes from the real world. And I think if there's any benefit with climate change, for example, is we're all linked to our jobs depend on that effectively. And then we also forget the human side. And we can talk about workers in the field in certain vineyards in certain areas of the world that really have nothing and don't get paid particularly well and exposed to pesticides and all the rest of it. And until we really think about the human aspect of the terroir equation, our industry, I think, will only be partially formed. And I think what you've done, turning obviously a life-changing event into a life-changing experience and using that in a positive way.
Yeah, it's all about sharing our resources, and I am certainly trying to do that. I was very blessed to know that when I left that hospital room, I had a family and I have friends. I'm not rich, I'm not wealthy, but I did have financial resources that allowed me to do simple home modifications, put in grab bars, make the doors wider, put in a couple of ramps. A lot of people did not. I was on the same hospital floor with other individuals that went to nursing homes, and that's like the beginning of death, to be honest with you. I just want to be able to help those that have less, help them figure out what their passions in life, because we only have a few. It's not a very long life. This goes by very fast, and so we have to make the best of it, but we also have to have the ability to be able to help others that need our help, and it doesn't have to be monetary. It doesn't have to be giving money, but sometimes mentorship goes a long way, and I think we can certainly do a better job in this industry with that.
You'd be a great mentor. I'm not just saying for your, the situation, but also your wine knowledge and the fact that you've come from a family with values. It's clear, it shines through. I mean, other people that had the situation that you've experienced, maybe from very privileged, spoilt families, just for example, everything is taken for granted. I would imagine would have found the transition much, much harder.
Yeah. No.
Life changing in kind of like, it's so unfair, and it is unfair. But I think we did talk last night about your parents, and I'm glad we did because it was kind of you warmed up a little bit this morning. But it's so important, and it shines through. And well done them.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well done you. And leading by example. That's what it's about, and that's what you do.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No worries. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Listen to all of our pods on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and on ItalianWinePodcast.com. Don't forget to send your tweets to @ItaWinePodcast.